Hello everybody. In this video I wanted to showcase how you can use a custom function inside Poly to create a new microservice. Now this microservice could be a backend to a website or a mobile app, or it could be optimized for an AI agent, which we'll do in future videos. Or you can even have it be a custom service for a partner who requires a specific interface to be able to interface with your systems. So you have a lot of power with custom functions to build whatever you'd like. Now, I like to start off building custom functions by first identifying the functions I'd like to use. So for that, I'll use a combination of our Tree Explorer and our AI Assistant. So here, I might ask something like, how do I create a new order using our logistics service? And you can see it finds the function that we're looking for and gives us an example. However, this isn't a custom function yet because it's basically flat. It's the top level. So I'm going to ask it to rewrite it. Please write it as a new async function. And have it return a new object defined as an interface which has an order ID, order cost, and shipping cost. I'll fill in later. Cool, so you can see it goes ahead and declares a new object for us, writes it as a custom function, or async function, sorry, and then basically goes ahead and fills it in, and then creates a return statement for us, and then basically gives us a little bit of information about what it did. So pretty good starting point. I actually really like this. It's pretty close. It's got kind of all the elements of a kind of custom function. So go ahead and paste it in. I'll close the AI Assistant for now, and we can just take a quick look at it. So I'm pretty happy with the interface. I don't like calling it order response because, let's say this interface has a specific purpose. So in our case, let's call it a t-shirt order. And let's say this custom service is all going to be around just ordering t-shirts, and that's it. We want to make it really simple for consumers. For API consumers. So then a t-shirt order is basically going to be my object, and it's just going to have an ID, order cost, shipping cost, which is fine. We're still going to want the customer to come in, customer information to come in. So I'll go ahead and declare that this custom or create order takes in a customer. However, I could declare it as taking in an object, or I can declare it as taking in specific elements. So in my case here, I'm just going to go ahead and have it in specific elements to make it that much easier for the consumer just to worry about individual fields rather than having to worry about creating objects, etc. I know objects is not hard, but just as an example. So we'll make this a string. We'll make address also a string, and we'll make the delivery instructions also a string. Cool. And then, so that's what we're taking in. So now I can go ahead and actually just do something like this, where we're going to populate the customer object with whatever we get from the request. Now, here's where you'd want to do validations, make sure it's not empty if it's required, etc., etc. For now, I'm just going to go with the golden path for this demo. Now, order items, here is where you could order multiple things, but since we just want to order a t-shirt, I'm going to go ahead and just hard code this to one t-shirt, and let's say the product ID of a t-shirt in our catalog is 123. So I'm just hard coding the service to always create t-shirts. Again, it's a way to kind of simplify the interface, but what I'm showing you here is really just you have the flexibility to take them in as arguments, to go retrieve them from other systems, to go ahead and hard code them. You can do whatever you'd like, and that's the power of being able to express yourself via code. So the customization, however, I would like to have that come in, and I'm going to go ahead and add an extra element called, let's call it t-shirt customization. And that's just going to be a string as well. And then we're going to go ahead and take that and pass it into the payload under customization. So I'll go ahead and map it like this. So you also have the ability to map however you'd like. Now for the host URL, we're going to go ahead and use our Vari entry for it. So our reference to the host URL. And then I do need to import Vari as well. So I'll go ahead and do that. Hit save. And then for the access token, we do need to obtain an access token. So I'll make this the access token response. And we'll get the access token by using the get token function. So the get access token is a poly function, which you can see here has a description of each of the parameters, what it expects. And you'll see in future videos how these variables were all created and registered. And for now, I'll just go ahead and use my client ID here. And I'll go ahead and use my client secret here. And then for the scopes, I'm just going to say orders create. Now this could have been a variable entry. It could actually have been an object with different subpaths to different values. So there's a lot of flexibility here, but for this example, I'll just go ahead and hard code this just to showcase the difference. So you can pass in things directly, you can pass them in by reference, you can pass them in through Vari. So now that we have the access token response, we can actually go ahead and get the access token out of it directly. So we'll go ahead and look at the data, and inside the data, we'll get the access token. And you could always use the AI assistant to help you find these things. In this example, in the interest of time, I'm just going to go ahead and keep moving. And then lastly, we're declaring a object down here, which has the old name. So we'll go ahead and say that the order response, really, I don't want it to be order response. I want it to be t-shirt confirmation. And then the t-shirt confirmation is going to be the information we sent back to the invoker. Cool. And then let's see here. We got total cost coming in, shipping costs. See, I told it I would do this later, so it has it as a 0. So let's go ahead and actually do this. So let's say const shipping cost. And then here, I'm going to go ahead and lean on the AI assistant again to help me find a function. Again, here I have like 6 functions total, so it's not hard to find it. But just for the purposes of the demo, I'll say something like how Cool. So you can see it's got 2 that it finds. One that is a more generic function, and then one that is more specific, a simplified one. The simplified one, you'll see in a future video how we created them. They're basically helper functions to help users be able to more easily use services. These helper functions could either be services like the one we're creating, or they can be included as part of the library, kind of client-side execution. So here we see that we have basically 2 examples, one that's using the helper function, one that's using the main function. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of treat this as, hey, it helped us find it. And we can also see in the example here that it says the data.amount is what we're looking after. So, and data.currency. So yeah, they should be found in there. So let's go ahead and copy this whole statement. And then I'm going to go ahead and do something like this. And I like the fact that I actually named it response, which is kind of nice. I like to just do res for short. So that's just the preference. And then here we can see that we're looking for a weight, a zip code, etc. So let's say we know our t-shirts weigh, half a pound. So I'm just going to say it's a 1 pound. The zip code from, now here really what we should do is take an address and a zip code. So let's go ahead and say that we expect the user to pass in a zip code. This is not the most elegant way to do this. It's just the easiest, and we'll make zip code a number. And then down here, we'll pass in the zip code to our service. So the zip code is the user zip code. So we'll say zip code. And then the zip code from is going to be our zip code. So let's just say we are in 80516. We can hover over this function and see its interface, and it looks like both zip code from and zip code to are numbers. However, if they weren't, you could easily do a conversion here. Again, the power of using code gives you a lot of tools out of the box that we as Poly, the platform, just inherit and pass on to you. And then the access token, we already have this one, so I'm just going to go ahead and copy the statement. And this will be our access token. And then from the response, it looks like it's saying we should have, data.amount. Let's assume the service is just dealing with USD, so we're not dealing with multiple currencies for this example, but you can imagine how you can layer on additional elements to represent the currency as well. So for the shipping cost, I'm going to go ahead and replace this to-do statement or comment, and then we could see that we're getting a suggestion from Copilot, but I'll just go ahead and type it out. So we'll do simple quote dot amount, and that's going to be what we return back. Now let's see, shipping cost is saying that it's a string. However, we're getting back a number, we're getting back a string. We want it to be a number. Let's just double check our interface to make sure that's true. So here's an example of where the data types don't line up, but if we're confident that it's always just a number wrapped as a string, which a dollar amount should be, then we can do stuff like this. So we can go number, and we can just convert this over. Cool, and so that's a simple mapping. Now, let's go ahead and test this out. So to test it, I like to actually test it locally first. It's generally a best practice to do it as a separate file. In this example, I'm just going to do it locally here. So I'll get the help of my trusty AI assistant, and I'll say, give me an example of invoking this function. And this is going to be a preference. Some people are going to prefer to write it out themselves. Others are going to prefer to have a sip of coffee while the AI does the writing. Up to you, but just kind of showcasing the ability to go ahead and leverage it for stuff like this. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I like it. And I'm going to go ahead and paste this at the bottom. Now be really careful when you're testing it from within the same file. I do this all the time. I still get mixed up. When you deploy the custom function to Poly, it's going to execute the whole file. It's just going to start with the entry being in here. So you're actually going to double execute if you are not careful and you include an execute statement inside your file. So this is not a great practice. Again, I'm only doing it for the interest of time. Great, so we've got create order. That looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and run it. We'll do ts node. And we'll do, let's see, where is this file located? It's found inside, I put it at the top level. So it should just be custom service.ts. And we can see we get a confirmation saying the order was created successfully. Now, why is that? Let's see. Oh, because we're logging just that. So that's my fault. I should have caught this. Let's go ahead and actually log the full response. So we'll just do res. Let's try it again. So you can see we're getting the full object back. We got an order ID, order cost, and shipping cost. So this is, again, just to summarize, an orchestration which we created in a matter of minutes that allows us to basically do, we're using how many APIs here? 1, 2, 3 different APIs to basically go ahead and transform existing services into a new service. And the objective is to optimize it for a specific use case. In this case, let's say it's a mobile app or web app that needs a different interface than just the underlying enterprise systems that we have, because we don't want to tightly couple our enterprise systems with applications on top of it. So now I'd like to go ahead and just deploy it so we can have it inside our library. So let me comment this out first. And then for now, one other practice I like to do is just put the command to deploy it right above the function so that I don't accidentally deploy it into a different namespace or get confused in the future kind of iterations of it. So I like to just say npx poly function add. We're going to do create. And actually, this is a good point. We shouldn't call it create order. We should call it create t-shirt order. So we'll go ahead and use that new name. And it's found in custom service.ts. And we're going to put it in a context of, let's just call it logistics .custom services, and then we're going to deploy it as a server-side function in this case. So we'll just do --server. So this command, assuming I typed it all out correctly, will give us a new microservice running on Poly, which is really in Knative as our serverless functions execution engine. And so that's where we're basically going to have a container that gets spun up whenever somebody invokes this function. And we can see it's been deployed here. We get a function ID. Everything was successful. So now what we can do is actually go ahead to our test file, and I'm going to go ahead and paste this in. Oh, that's the wrong thing. So let me go ahead and copy the execution. And we'll go ahead and paste it in. We'll go ahead and uncomment everything. And then we do need to make it a poly function, so we'll do import poly. And actually, let me go ahead and do this in parallel. I'm going to ask the AI assistant, how do I create an order for a t-shirt using our logistics service? And let's say it's a custom t-shirt. And you can see it actually identifies our new service already. So the power of kind of being a poly function is that it becomes discoverable and consumable through the library, as well as runs on poly. So we give you both the execution engine of this thing that you'll see in the future, monitoring and log management, etc. And then you also get the discovery and consumption portion as well, implicitly by it being registered as a poly function. Great. So actually, this is pretty nice. I'm going to go ahead and copy this instead of writing my own. So I'll go ahead and hit save. And then let's just double check a few things here. So one little thing is Poly is assuming that there's a data element in there, which there isn't. So probably a bad practice on my side, but also technically incorrect with Poly. Now, this is maybe a good opportunity to point out, with AI, it's super helpful and saves me a ton of time, but we don't want to assume 100% accuracy. So the beauty of Poly is that it actually takes an educated guess at what it should be or could be, but then you really have the help of the compiler and the TypeScript server, or if you're using Python or Java, the equivalents, to basically validate the syntax and be like, hang on a second, this doesn't look right. So you actually have a defense mechanism against potential mistakes of the AI in the fact that the library is very strongly typed and has the actual metadata behind the scenes to understand exactly what it should look like. Because if we go to this create t-shirt service, go to its definition, you can see we have a model and it understands the exact response and request interface that this function has. So this makes it for easy corrections like this, so we can just see that this doesn't exist. And so it's just a mistake of having the dot data in there. Great, so now let's go ahead and execute it. So I'll just do ts node test2.ts. Yep, so you can see logs it out, order 1, 2, 3, order cost, shipping, looks good. and that's this console log statement that generated that. So with that, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. In future videos, we're going to take this custom function and then basically tailor it for an AI agent use case. But for now, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.